Hi everyone, I am back in a timelier manner than normal, as kind of promised. um, I actually had a few different ideas for what I wanted to talk about this week, and um, it kind of came down to the importance of talking about our lived experiences. But before I went to skate a couple of hours ago, I had a really like a really major trauma breakthrough. Like it was kind of a total bombshell that has been resting beneath my subconscious for several years now, and actually putting some stuff into words about it got me to a point where I had a major realization with it. It was a big epiphany, but it kind of broke my brain a little bit. So we went out, we skated for a couple of hours, and then did a little bit of for about an hour, and then did a little bit of yoga and meditation at the end. Um, and headed back home, and I kind of wrote down a little bit of what I kind of focused on when I was working through my thoughts and stuff out there, and kind of really really put together what I really wanted to kind of like make this into. So it's kind of going to be about recognizing that talking about our lived experiences is really important, especially where there's so much of just like a distance between people who are like neurotypical and then those of us who are neurodivergent. And um, I mean, not across the board, but there is like a lot of like uneasy feelings and rubbing people the wrong way that happens and stuff. And I think that if we talk more about um, how we experience the things that happen in our lives, and how we perceive things, we have more of an opportunity to get the realization out there that there's not really any such thing as normal, and that we just kind of accept what we've been told is normal. And if we talked more about how we experience life, we would be able to start to recognize as humans that we have much more diverse experiences than we imagined. So talking about that is really important. Humans are naturally just so self-absorbed that they like most people never know that they can actually probably relate to a lot of others that they never probably expected to be able to relate to. um they have like they don't have that realization that some of their experiences and the way they experience them are not like they're unique, but it's not like unique to just them. There are other people who go through a similar process with that experience or whatever. um because of what is deemed normal in Western civilizations, many people never truly understand that there is not a normal, and that we, um, as humans, don't understand that as much because we generally don't share how we experience things with each other. Um, I mean, I've had this conversation with my therapist a couple times, with my psychiatrist, and then with various people in my life, especially people that are on the spectrum of neurodivergence, because I think it's kind of like coming down to a lot of us starting to recognize that if this is supposed to be something that's not so common, then why are our symptoms so common? I understand that we form communities and we create ways of staying like in touch with each other, in contact, or being influenced by like other people's experiences in that way, through social media. But at the same time, it's really apparent that um, these like abnormalities are not really as abnormal as we as a society are kind of like conditioned to believe, if that makes sense. Um, Another thing that's really important, and that kind of ties in with the trauma realization that I had earlier. Each of us comes to realizations in our own time, and it's important to know that along with that, um, trauma responses are valid, but it is important, like when you recognize that as a trauma response, that you address it and that you make changes, that you do the work to stop that response, or to change that response, to make it better, or to use it as a way to improve your own life or your own mindset, to change your negative ways of thinking and kind of like work towards making them positive in a way. Um, so obviously with the notes, I'm not going as balls to the wall as I normally do on these videos. I'm really trying to bring more of a structure to things, but I've always struggled with reading my notes like straight up and then trying to spend time making eye contact or whatever, which with the camera it's a little bit different. It still makes me uncomfortable, so you get the back and forth of me focusing more on my notes or getting derailed, which obviously we all know happens a lot. Um, Also, on top of that, I took my glasses off because the glare was really bothering me. So I am really like raw dogging this these notes right now. As far as like my ability to fully be able to see them. So anyway, derailment. To get back on track. Each of us comes to our realizations in our own time. And I know that I kind of like tied that in with trauma responses, but it's not even just realizations about our trauma and trauma responses. There are different realizations that we're going to have throughout life that some people have way earlier, some people don't have until much later in life. And it all comes down to like the experiences that we have in life and how those push us into like our realizations and our breakthroughs and our epiphanies and whatnot. Um, which also comes down to how open we are to that. The breakthrough that I had tonight was something that I've kind of pushed away for a long time. It was information that I received several years ago that made me really uncomfortable, and I didn't want to examine it too closely because um, I wasn't ready to go there, but it hit me like seemingly out of nowhere, having a conversation about um, stuff along the same lines and recognizing, oh my God, this is affecting me so much more heavily than I ever thought that it was. Or, oh, like this is close to 15 years after like the initial incident, and between like 6 and 8 years after finding out the information that I found out, that completely changed the perspective of that incident in my head and stuff. And at this point, recognizing, oh, well, I guess we've been putting off examining it, like reflecting, like looking at myself at that time, understanding those things. We've been putting that off a little bit too long. And I mean, it does, like I said, it happens in its own time, but we can definitely like delay that time on our own by just not being self observant enough, or like self not actualized, because it takes a lot to get to self actualization. Like, how many of us have ever really even like considered that that's a possibility in this lifetime, especially living in the day and age that we live in? Like, there is a lot to fight to get to that point of self actualization. I truly do hope that I get there in this life, though, and sooner rather than later, because yeah, that'd be nice. Um, to that end, too, the thing that I'm struggling with is not knowing the truth. 100% knowing what my experience was and knowing what I remember happening at the time, but not knowing if the stuff that I found out later, if there was malicious intent behind it, or if it was a way that somebody truly felt, if they were trying to drive a wedge between um, me and my friends at the time, or if they really did think that I had committed this offense. And so it's hard to look at that, and to recognize, like, I don't know what the truth is, but I think that part of life and part of finding peace in life is having the ability to accept that there's going to be times when we don't always have the answers, or we're not always going to know the truth about some of the circumstances that we've been in and some of our experiences in life. And we're only going to hurt ourselves more the more that we try to fight that. And I, more than probably like most people, like have a need to know the truth or to know what's happening or what's going on. I'm so nosy, and I feel like I need to know all the things at all the time. So it is just something that is hard for me in general. So finding the time to choose peace and try to get to that point is, it's rough, but um I think it is definitely a journey worth making. And I think that one of the really important things with that as well is making a conscious effort to choose grace. Fighting is something that I have been ready to do my whole life. And it's weird because like I do, since I've started studying paganism, the concept of do no harm is really something that I recognize as a prevalent idea throughout my life. And that's not to say that I've never done harm, because I have definitely done harm, intentionally and unintentionally. And I am not gonna lie, I have a lot of trauma, and there are times when I want to hurt people, whether it's with my words or with my body or with weapons. There are times where I just want to make somebody feel the way that I feel, and I think that's very human. But at the same time, I recognize that hurting people really hurts me, like mentally. Like it is harsh. It's really hard to go through. Recognizing that I've made somebody feel um, a terrible way is just um, like kind of wrecks my brain sometimes. Thinking that I'm capable of doing some things, and some of the things that I've done in my lifetime, like, or that I might possibly have done in my lifetime, it is horrifying. But I think that's where we need to understand that it's not only important to be open to giving grace to others, like it's important to recognize that we can give ourselves grace as well. um do no harm is a really important part of my life, and I still struggle with wanting to harm people in little ways, like maybe not daily anymore, but it's a battle that I fight with myself. I know that I am a peaceful person, but my trauma will get the best of me, and I don't want to be peaceful. um so we kind of like don't really talk enough about not just like trauma from experiences in our life, but like the trauma that we can have from revelation, especially if it's a revelation that makes us question ourselves, or like who we are, or maybe our morality or our values. That is where I was earlier when I had this recognition, because it really kind of like it disconcerted me, because it made me like address the idea that like, and I mean, it's not a new idea. I've done shitty things in my life. There have been times that I felt like a horrible human being, but it really brought it really close to home, and it was really grounding, and really humbling. So um the kind of thing that brought me to is something that I find that I struggle with a lot, because I struggle with communication. And um I'm also really sensitive. So sometimes there are times when like I'm upset with somebody or angry or offended by something, and they have no idea. Um, in this situation where like I've had this trauma realization for many years, I had no idea that this was a thing. And there's still that part where I don't know the truth behind it. Like if this person that revealed these things like truly felt the way that they felt in that like revelation, or um if it was a malicious intent type situation. So that's the part where like I'm never going to know. But we can't expect someone to be remorseful when they don't know that they have committed a transgression, and that all of the time I expect people to know that I'm angry with them, and like unless I say something, they absolutely are not, except by my attitude. That will tip. Actually, that throws me under the bus every fucking time. But aside from that, if I'm not like in person with somebody, or I'm not throwing off the attitude vibes, it really is something that I think a lot of us as people expect others to automatically know, like, oh, we're upset with you, and we expect you to know why we're upset, but that's not realistic at all. And so I feel like there have been many years where this person, if this person really is upset with me, that they had so much anger and like pain that went unacknowledged, I guess, simply because I had no idea that they felt or they thought that um, things inhabit a certain way. So it's really important to open a line of communication, I guess, with people that we truly care about. I don't know that I'm ever going to have a conversation with this person. I don't know that I will ever know the truth about anything behind it. Not to say that I don't think I'll ever have the courage or the strength to like try to make that conversation happen, but just that life happens and things. There may not be an opportunity to ever speak to that person again. I haven't seen them in probably close to 15 years now, so it's really weird to be at a place in life where you look at that like, oh hey, I might be a terrible human being, and there might not ever really be an opportunity to address that. And that all kind of just comes back to having that ability to have grace not only for other people in your life but for yourself. So this these videos fly by so fast and they end up being so long. I'm so sorry. I am not, I don't feel like I'm a talker, and apparently it just comes naturally. I guess it helps when there's not an actual audience in front of me at the time, but um I think that's where I want to kind of like call it to an end, and say that I will see you guys next week, and maybe we will talk about something not quite as heavy. um but honestly, I do. I hope that y'all enjoy these videos. Even that though they are like literally just thrown together, not really edited, and kind of just the ADHD brain vomit that I half acidly prepare for y'all. It it is more for me than for anybody else. But at the same time, I know that this is a lot. So anyway, again, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I will be back again soon, like maybe next weekish, um, with some poetry and some shit that's not quite so heavy. So have a great week.